Hello and welcome to That's Absurd. Please elaborate, a podcast that talks about stuff that you might be interested in. And if you are, thanks for tuning in. If you're not, just stick around. I think we'll get you. I'm Trace, one of the two people who you're going to hear in this podcast. I'm a science communicator, and so is the other guy, Julian Huget. He's over there poking himself in the eye.
I'm having trouble getting over that you introduced it as a podcast that talks about stuff that you might be interested in. And it's like, yeah, that's all of them, Trace.
Every podcast. I think there are 5 billion of them. And
there's got to be. There might be a podcast where it's just like the sounds of vegetables on a grater. Like, he's okay, technically not talking, sure.
Sure, maybe. Maybe there is a podcast of the sound of grass growing.
Yeah,
I would listen to it. The slow podcast movement, it's coming. Ooh. Aren't all podcasts slow podcasts?
Peas in a pod. Just like the sound of peas being shucked from a pod. That's a podcast.
Honestly, it might be good. Art. It's art. If this is the first time you've listened to our show, we answer questions from you, the audience, every episode. And we take those questions and we do as much science research or desktop research or calling experts or whatever we can to try and find a satisfying answer for you, the listener. So submit those questions. You can find ways to do that in the show notes. We'll wrap it up and tell you all about that later. But for now, Julian, you're going to go first this week. And what is your question?
My question was submitted by someone who I can only identify as Kronik Dreamer because they did not leave a name.
Oh.
And Kronik Dreamer asks, would coating your nervous system in a conductive or insulative material boost someone's reflexes?
Oh.
Now, I saw this and at face value, I start going through what I know about the brain and nervous system, and I'm like, oh, I might have a pretty straightforward answer. I don't know if there's really enough for me to stretch this out into a full segment. And then I started reading Kronik's additional context that they submitted.
Oh.
And it goes in a direction that I did not see coming.
Okay.
Now, I will say this. A lot of it is very specific details relating to the tabletop RPG cyber generation.
Okay.
It's so detailed, in fact, that Kronik has multiple footnotes to explain.
I mean, I'm not laughing at them. I want to be clear. I'm laughing at you and with them.
I'm laughing because I love it, right? I didn't see this coming, but Kronik has footnotes on supercarbon and hexite and this sort of things from the game world.
Oh my.
I'm going to try and read most of the elaboration, but I'll just summarize. I think if it's going to get too in the weeds that we'll lose most people. But suffice it to say, Kronik says that in a tabletop RPG that they play called Cyber Generation, there is a plague at one point in this game world. It targets people that are over a certain age with a specific cyberpunk genetic trait that's been modified. It kills adults terribly, but if you're a teenager or younger, instead of killing you horribly, it modifies your nervous system.
Okay.
It coats it in hexite, which is this material made up of supercarbon molecules. And when it coats your nervous system with this hexite, you get all sorts of cool enhancements. It's different depending on the specific individual, but one of these things might be enhanced reflexes.
Ooh.
So the material, it's described to have unique electrical properties that Kronik says they've always interpreted to either be a conductor or an insulator or both. And they wanted to give the game the benefit of the doubt that it is, in fact, possible and increasing reaction time. The game is obviously science fiction, Kronik says, but it does have a game design credit for a scientific consultant. So they wanted to know, is this science fiction? What scientific models do you think this fiction could have pulled from? Could this actually in some way work?
Could it?
Well, first thing I want to say is, Kronik, thank you for the question.
Yes.
And I'm going to say this. I like tabletop RPGs. I like games. I have not played Cyberpunk or Cyber Generation, but back in ye old 2020, I was working for a mom and pop retail store called GameStop.
Ah, I've heard of it.
Yes, you may have. And I made videos for GameStop. And that year, Cyberpunk 2077 was coming out. Did you ever hear of this game? Did you play it?
I definitely did, yes. I may not be in the gamer universe per se, but I am games adjacent, being, in STEM. So I can't really avoid things like Cyberpunk, because that one was huge and had a lot of complaints.
Yes.
But then later were fixed. This is about all that is literally, I think, the sum of my knowledge about that game, other than people like it.
It's funny you say that, right? So yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 was one of those video games that really managed to break through into the mainstream consciousness, I think. The advertising campaign was ubiquitous.
Yeah.
And the hype for the game was huge because the studio developing it, CD Projekt Red, which is based in Poland, had an amazing reputation. They had developed The Witcher, The Witcher 2,
What?
The Witcher 3.
Wow!
Gwent, which is a spin-off from The Witcher, based on a mini game.
Is it a spin-off from the original one, the second one, or the third one?
The third one.
Oh, interesting. So
yeah,
it's
it was a little
3.
card game. It was a little card game in the third one, and it was so popular that they just made it its own game. Anyway, so when I was working for GameStop and this Cyberpunk 2077 game was scheduled to come out and then delayed and then, delayed again and finally coming out in late 2020, producer was like, hey, why don't you make a video about this and talk about the studio and talk about the history of the cyberpunk genre and this game in particular? And I was like, sure. And of course, I'm working for GameStop, their goal is to sell games. So I'm like, this game's going to be awesome, right? CD Projekt Red has such a stellar reputation with The Witcher. They can't go wrong.
I see where this is going.
And it was an utter disaster on launch. So friendly reminder, listener, that, I'm wrong about stuff a lot. I just want to make sure that people who think of me as an authority figure on things are aware that my track record is not fantastic, okay?
It's fine.
It's normal, right?
It's a normal
I'm not
record.
batting zero, but I'm not always on it, especially when it comes to predicting if a game is going to be, awesome at launch and not a bug-riddled mess. Like you said, they did fix it. It's got a good reputation now, but that was one of the worst launches I remember. So all that said, that video game was based on the cyberpunk genre and more specifically a tabletop RPG that's rooted in the cyberpunk genre called Cyberpunk.
The tabletop. The tabletop game.
It can be a little confusing, so sometimes, it's referred to by the second edition is Cyberpunk 2020 and another edition Cyberpunk Red. So that kind of helps people know what we're talking
Julian,
about.
Julian, I know this isn't really related, but what's cyberpunk?
Great question.
Because I've heard of steampunk.
Yes.
Which is very, I don't know, I associate it with very Burning Man at this point. But because I lived in the Bay Area long enough. But you get my point. There are different levels of punk. Cyberpunk is similar to steampunk, a type of aesthetic.
Right.
Can you maybe describe it? Are you aware of what it is?
Yes. Of course.
Oh, good.
I made a whole video for GameStop on it 5 years ago.
Perfect. I'm sure it's not changed.
Probably not. Cyberpunk is a specific niche of science fiction that's categorized by what's described as high-tech, low class. This society is now run by massive mega corporations, a lot of them in technology. They're so powerful, they're basically functionally the government at this point. You could think of corporations even as their own nation, and they're run by extremely wealthy elites. Technology has proliferated into every part of everybody's lives. You have actual implanted technology that your human body interfaces with. So, of course, advertisement is running rampant, plays on the inside of your eyeballs, and everything is commodified. And despite all this wealth at the top and all this technological advancement, the average day-to-day person is struggling to get by. It's a harsh, unforgiving existence. There's a lot of issues with drug addiction and crime, and gun violence is rampant. Thankfully, this is all fiction.
Thankfully, this is not at all a predictive situation.
No. No.
Thankfully.
Thankfully.
In the United States specifically.
The Cyberpunk first edition of the RPG came out in 1988, by the way.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Just hate when dystopian fiction seems to be predicting the future. Why can't it be like steampunk, right? I'm not an expert, but it seems like steampunk is like, boy, if just everything still ran on coal and was made of brass, things would be great. Like,
yeah,
steampunk seems so much more idealistic, and cyberpunk seems so much more depressing.
Steampunk also has that, like, well, I don't know. I've really only mostly seen steampunky stuff that's also anime. So it's like tough, like Steam Boy. It's, it's like hard to pull the two apart for me in my brain right now. But it is still, there is some like happy, like, oh, let's look forward. But there's also, darkness and terrible ownership of societal policies and
steampunk is like, what if Victorian England never ended, but it's okay because we get to be the British in this fantasy. So.
Right, yeah. And cyberpunk is, what if the future is awful but also based on, I don't know, our anxieties about the 1980s and the growing technological revolution.
Yes. I think we've summed it up pretty neatly there.
Yeah.
Okay. So these cyberpunk games, because they're science fiction, they have that veneer of being science-y sounding. And like Kronik suggests, there was a science consultant, but some things about it drive me crazy. Like when I was making this video for GameStop, I was learning about the world, and the predominant fuel that everything runs on instead of gasoline at this point is something called CHO2, or CHOOH2. CHOOH2.
Oh,
CHO2. If you're a cool 1980s cyberpunk rad person, that's the slang term that you use.
What? I'm confused by this
okay, thank you.
This molecular formula.
Yes! Yes!
That's very confusing.
Your face, I'm so happy that's your reaction.
I'm just confused. Okay, I'm not going to step on, but I'm very confused.
No, tell me. What are you thinking? What is it that you think when you see? Because you have a bit of a chemistry background, correct?
A bit, but I did poorly in it, which is why I switched out of it. I did some quick searching, and firstly, all of the searches come up with this game, obviously. It's a hypothetical compound, clearly, right. But apparently it's very similar to formic acid, which is HCOOH.
Yeah.
But with an extra hydrogen in there, because it's H2. But
yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to sketch out a molecule that made sense with this chemical formula. I can't do it. I'll tell you, listeners, why, right? Carbon likes to form 4 bonds.
Yeah.
Hydrogen likes to form 1 bond. Oxygen likes to form 2 bonds, right? When you actually try and construct a molecule that follows those rules with CHOOH2, it cannot be done. You've got an oxygen that's still in need of making another bond, so it should basically have a negative charge, should draw another hydrogen to it, right? And if you do that, you actually get a derivative of formaldehyde.
Not great.
Like you said,
fuel.
Yeah, or if you remove a hydrogen, you can make formic acid, which again, these things are not compounds that we use for fuel. So yes, I believe that they had a scientific consultant, but either they didn't have a chemistry background, or maybe they did bring up like, hey, this CHO2 molecule's kind of silly. And the people making it went,
That's fine.
I want my rad cyberpunk people to call it CHO2. You know? It strikes me so much of, like, Trace, we're nerds, right?
I'm a big one.
Have you ever had the thought process of like, what do cool people talk like?
Every time I'm on this podcast.
You're definitely like, how do we sound more cool? Because it's not what we're doing, right?
I like that you just give a little Zap Brannigan, like, to your voice, and you're like, now I'm cool.
Trust me, Kiff, I know how to be cool. This strikes me as a bunch of tabletop RPG nerds who are like, what would cool people call gasoline? Right? And Chew? No, that's too short. It's not good. What if we added another hydrogen there? chew too. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So 1980s, like.
Dude, that's it, Dave. Dave, you've got it.
Popped collar, sunglasses. It's just like the nerds being like, we're gonna be cool. And I love us. I include us in the nerds who aren't cool thing.
Yeah.
But we're so not good at it. Anyway.
It's great. That's excellent.
And apparently also violating rules of chemistry while we're at it. Trying to be cool. Cool people don't care about how molecules
chemistry
are supposed to form.
Yeah. I'm too cool to think about the rules of the universe.
So, of course, Kronik is aware, right, that it's science fiction. You know, we're not going to take this all literally. We're not going to expect everything to work. So with that in mind, though, let's explore this cyber generation concept of maybe having something coding your neurons in your nervous system that can improve reaction speeds, right?
Okay.
By the way, cyber generation came out in 1993. And apparently a major plot point is this plague where a virus that was basically weaponized leaks and it kills a bunch of adults but doesn't kill anyone under 18. And according to the game's wiki page, this all happened in 2020.
I don't like that.
I don't like that. I'm worried a conspiracy theorist is going to learn all this and be like, it was all planned.
Luckily for us, no one listens to this show.
Thank goodness. They're gonna get out all the red string though. But again, like when we're talking about, I don't like when my dystopian futures start becoming my dystopian realities.
My dystopian nows.
Yeah. Oh no. I would like to return this present, please. Okay. So about these orphans, though, who don't die, like Kronik mentions, they get superpowers instead because their nervous systems are sheathed in hexite. One of the footnotes that Kronik had for me is that hexite is made up of 6 supercarbon molecules, and then the footnote within the footnote is what supercarbon is. And the way that Kronik describes it makes my eye twitch in the same way that Chew 2 does.
Yeah, I'm just happy about it.
I'm just going to ignore the supercarbon part and just think of this hexite as though it's using regular carbon. And it's described basically as like a honeycomb lattice of carbon.
Yeah, because that's the coolest and easiest to draw.
Yes.
I just want to point out, we're not making fun of Kronik or this game when we laugh at it. What we are doing is making fun of the lore of said game, because adding a footnote does not make one science. But it does make one often science fiction. Just add a footnote, just add a little lore, build the world, and now it's real.
I think what people really love about the cyberpunk game, right, is the depth of the world.
Yeah.
You know, when you learn about the history of it, there's so much detail in, like, wars in different countries, like in Central America, that, you know, these characters at one point fought in and came back, and that turned them into revolutionaries, you know. But, like, they go into the reasons why these wars were being fought, over the resources there, and on and on and on. And learning this lore, I think, tickles a part of a lot of people's brains of like, oh, I just want to fill in all these gaps. This is so interesting. Yeah.
Yes. It's the same. It's the thing in all of the best stories. It's more than just a story you're listening to or reading. It's just funny to me, and it's always interesting to me when like Lord of the Rings has that same thing, right? It's one of the most famous stories in fiction, in English fiction. And the reason it's so good in part is because Tolkien gave us all of this backstory to all of the made-up languages and cultures that don't even appear in the stories. They're just like, oh, no, this culture influenced this, that influenced this, and now you're reading about this, and it's just, that adds this, like, depth of flavor into the world, and this is the same thing. Right. I just find it really... What we used to call it when we worked in science communication on a daily basis is, I used to call it science words. You just throw some science words into your, wellness blog, and now it's a science blog. Oh, yeah. Well, again, maybe that tickles that same itch, right? Like, people want to know. People want to understand. I think we're inherently curious. And for some people, actually studying science tickles that for them. For others, it's lore, and then others get sucked into the rabbit hole of pseudoscience that sounds convincing, but they don't have the tools to realize that it's all a bunch of made up stuff that hooey.
make any sense.
Bunch of hooey. But yeah, to use those three camps, which I actually really like, we're in the lore camp. We're not in the making fun of it camp. This is so funny because it's using the language often of science.
Yes.
But it's using it in a completely fictional and openly fictional way. And then the other side of that triangle is using the language of science in a fictional way, not being open about it, like pretending that it's real. And that we're not talking about that. I don't think anybody thinks dilithium is real.
Pretending it's real and then buy my supplements.
Yeah, buy my supplements to fix all of the things, the maladies that you don't really understand. It's fine.
When it's lore, I'm happy to go along with it.
Agreed.
When you're trying to pass it off as real, I am not.
So anyway, please continue.
Okay. Now, that said, though, I think Cyber Generation might have unwittingly have been onto something.
Okay.
And I'll get to that in a moment.
Like some of this weird chemistry might be cool chemistry?
Well, specifically, hexite that it describes, I think, actually, there's a real-world analog for it. And it might actually have applications for your nervous system.
That I did not know. But the stuff you're talking about, if it's what I think you're talking about.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about.
It's one of my favoriteest things to talk about because it's so interesting.
I'm going to leave space for you to talk about that in a moment. But first, let's talk about the nerves. So your nervous system, composed of neurons, right? And you've got your central nervous system, which is your brain and your spinal cord, and your peripheral nervous system, right? Which is, the nerves branching out from there. So your brain can communicate with your muscles, or sensory receptors can send signals back to your brain, right? And in your brain and in your spinal cord and in your peripheral nervous system, neurons basically come in two flavors. You know what they are?
Fast and slow.
Basically.
I mean, I don't know what they're called.
I thought you were going to say chocolate and vanilla, which actually, now that I think about it. But you have gray matter and you have white matter.
Right. Got it.
And so, for the most part, the neurons are structurally the same, right? You've got like the main cell body with the nucleus in it. You've got little dendrites reaching out that touch other neurons and get signals from them. And then you have one long axon coming out of it. And that's used by the neuron to send signals to other neurons that it might be touching, right?
Right.
And it sends this signal with what's called action potential, right? There's a voltage, there's a difference in charge inside the cell versus outside the cell. And so you get an electrical voltage. And when it wants to send a signal, some channels open up and some ions, charged particles, switch sides, and it sends basically what looks like the wave in a soccer stadium, down the axon of the charges changing, right?
Yeah.
How I imagine it. Woo.
I mean, that's pretty good. That's a really good descriptor.
I think so.
Yeah.
And so in gray matter, you just have the axon as it is, and the action potential just kind of moseys on down it, doing that wave, and it can travel between 0.5 to 2 meters a second. So it's about as fast as you can walk or jog.
Yeah.
Now,
seems pretty slow.
That's not that fast.
It's not going that far. So
yeah. Now, white matter, on the other hand, the difference is that axon has a coating of a kind of waxy, fatty substance called myelin.
Myelin.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that speeds up how fast that action potential can travel down the neuron. Mm-hmm. Do you know how fast it can go?
I mean, I'm faster. I just know it's faster. I don't
remember, for context, gray matter sending that signal at 0.5 to 2 meters a second.
Yeah.
With that in mind, you want to take a stab at how fast white matter sending that same signal?
Let's say double.
You are so underselling it.
Oh, 10 times.
It can travel, even that.
What?
Is still too slow. It can travel 70 to 120 meters per second.
Wow. That's way faster.
That's like a race car.
Yeah. It's like I was walking and now I am getting a ticket.
That's just hitting the warp speed button, right? So that myelinated sheath has little gaps in it that are called nodes of Ranvier.
Ooh, cool.
And the action potential jumps from one node to the next, to the next, to the next. And that's the key to that speed. So yes, this concept that, if we coat our neurons in something, maybe we can change the speed that signals propagate, is real, and we use it all the time. In fact, we think that this myelinated sheath is key to vertebrates basically having a functional nervous system. Because it's used to send signals quickly over much longer distances. Like gray matter in your brain is just kind of in the cortex, and then there's nodes inside, but it's mostly like densely packed, and it's where a lot of the actual processing takes place. But if you want to coordinate different parts of your brain or send signals quickly to, the extremities of your body, it's useful to have something that can conduct those signals faster. So inside your brain, there's white matter that basically is like the fiber optic cables of your brain.
Yeah.
And then same going down your spinal cord and out to your periphery, right?
Cool.
And so it helps you synchronize that gray matter so you can form connections across different areas of your brain that work together, and also just send signals quickly and efficiently. And there are diseases where people lose that myelinated sheath, and it causes them neurological problems. The most well-known one is multiple sclerosis. Right? So patients with MS, they can develop symptoms like vision loss, cognitive dysfunction, motor weakness, pain. You want to keep that myelinated sheath.
Yeah. Keep your sheath on.
Yeah. Geez, come on.
Sheath up.
Sheath on. This is for you. Now, you might be wondering, why don't we have all white matter?
I mean, we can't be all superheroes, Julian.
Right. Well, I couldn't find anything too definitive on this, but I do think that gray matter still has a very important function, and part of why it's remained gray, like you said, it doesn't have to travel that far. But also, if you don't have that myelinated sheath that makes the axons much, much fatter, you can pack a lot more neurons into the same volume.
It's always a trade-off.
Yep, always a trade-off. So gray matter, useful when you need it to do that processing. White matter, useful when you need to actually send those signals quickly.
Yeah.
Now, to Kronik's question, though, if we coated these axons of white matter, if we took off the myelinated sheath and we replaced it with some other insulating material, I don't think you're going to get any sort of benefit.
Right. You're going to lose the myelination, and it's not going to be able to jump across the carbon.
Well, let's say we do put, instead of carbon, just some insulating material, right?
Yeah.
Well, if the myelin's already providing insulation that, the voltage can't actually travel through, so it jumps across, I don't see how that's different than any other similarly insulating material, right? And how that's going to speed up.
Let's say it works the same, it's just going to make it the same speed.
Yeah, the action potential, I think, should travel basically the same speed.
Similar speed, yeah.
Right. But what if we do use, say, this hexite fictional material, or maybe its real-world equivalent, which is
graphene.
Graphene. Trace, you want to riff on graphene?
I'll riff. Sure. I wasn't prepared to talk about graphene.
What are your favorite things about graphene?
My favorite thing about graphene is that it is a graphene sheet is a one atom thick sheet of carbon molecules arranged in a honeycomb-like arrangement lattice. And you can use it for all sorts of things. So when you hear of carbon nanotubes, it's just a rolled up bit of graphene. The graphene itself, if we could make it do things that we want it to do, is stronger than steel. It is easy to make. It's made of one thing, the same thing that we are made of, that trees are made of, the same thing that charcoal is made of, just pure old carbon. It's a supercapacitor, which means it can hold electricity. It is biodegradable, which means if you just left it out in a field, it would turn back into natural materials all on its own, allegedly. So the problem is we can't make it particularly easily at scale. The last time I really looked into it, they were making it like 10 centimeter squares at one time using like CD burners and stuff. But this was, of course, a while ago if they're using stuff like that. But even then, when we were doing these videos about it, that was considered old technology at the time. So it's very cool stuff.
It is.
We just need to get better at making it.
Exactly. Do you know, by the way, how they first discovered it? Because this is one of my favorite dumb stories.
That I don't know.
So the researchers discovered graphene in 2004, which, by the way, is 11 years after SciGen comes up with this, fictional hexite material, which again, predicting the future kind of stuff is a bit weird. But the researchers were just like basically goofing around. They're like, let's see if we can just do some experiments in our off hours that aren't related to anything that we're doing. And they had a block of graphite and they just literally stuck Scotch tape to it and peeled it off. And they noticed that they pulled off different layers of graphite, like different thicknesses of graphite. And they thought, wow, if we just keep, refining this, just keep sticking on the tape and pulling it off and getting thinner and thinner layers, can we get down to a 1 atom thick layer of carbon? And they did.
And then they were like, what does this do?
And then they were awarded the Nobel Prize 6 years later. So
science is the best.
It's great. So funny. Some discoveries are like, wow, we needed like a massive particle accelerator and years of smashing atoms. And then others are like, I got this Scotch tape and this pencil lead.
I think they probably won the Nobel Prize for realizing it was important as much as they did for making it.
Yes. By the way, graphene had been theorized before that, but others weren't sure if a 1 atom thick crystal would be stable. So it was part of the big breakthrough.
Cool.
But anyway, another important feature of graphene, along with all the things you mentioned, is it is incredibly electrically conductive.
Yeah.
Apparently, electrons can move 100 times faster through graphene than they can in silicon.
Wow.
It's also strongest material ever measured. It's 100 times stronger than steel, conducts heat better than diamonds. And their atoms are in such a fine lattice that even helium, the smallest atom, can't pass through it. But graphene also stretches easily. So it's got useful applications because it's bendy. So I looked into it to see if anybody is trying to apply graphene to our nervous system.
Somebody is.
Somebody is.
Of course somebody is. Come on.
And the application is freaking cool.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
So graphene, or modified forms of graphene, that throw some oxygen in there. Some OOHs on the end, but not OOH2s. No, no go-tos.
No.
But if you modify graphene, it actually can be potentially an excellent lattice used to regrow damaged tissue, including neurons.
Neat.
Yes.
That's very difficult. There was a long time we didn't even think you could regrow neurons.
Right. So you can basically put stem cells on this graphene lattice structure, and then using electrical signals, you can stimulate it and differentiate the stem cells how you want. And it has the potential, it's still in early days of research,
of course,
but it has the potential to repair damaged neurons, like in your peripheral nervous system.
Whoa.
So you might be able to use these graphene lattices one day to actually take your degrading or damaged myelinated white matter and fix it and improve and enhance your reflexes at some point in the future.
Huh. Cool.
So in a very weird roundabout way, Kronik, I think that Cyber Generation unwittingly kind of hit on something that has a kind of like a soupçon of truth to it. Just a little dash of truth.
Pardon my French.
I already said Ranvier, so I'm sure that my French needs to be pardoned as it is. So yeah, I hope that satisfies your curiosity. Yes, in fact, we might be able to use carbon atoms arranged in this honeycomb pattern to one day improve reflexes of people who may have suffered tissue damage because of a disease or an injury. And we might be able to fix their reflexes and give them at least, normal human reflexes. Not superhuman, but regular human reflexes again.
But given the choice between none and some, that is already super as far as I can tell.
Yeah, that's super's normal is super compared to nothing.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Or normal cool.
Normal cool when there was no cool before. So therefore, super.
Which with the Chew-2, there was no cool before.
No cool before.
This is much cooler.
Hey, we're just some cool guys talking about Chew-2. You know, the juice for our automakars.
Automakars, oh God. Okay. Well, thank you very much to Kronik for sending in that question. That was really neat to learn about. Let's take a quick break and come back with a question from me or somebody else that I'm answering.
That you're going to answer. Yeah.
That's how our show works.
We do this all the time.
Julian, give me your best dinosaur roar.
Oh, God, an asteroid! It's horrible!
Wow, that was not where I expected that to go. We're popping in before the show to tell you about I Know Dino. It's a dinosaur podcast.
You know, we think of those dinosaurs being this thing that's been dead for tens of millions of years. Even so, studying dinosaurs can still teach us stuff that is relevant to the world today.
Yeah, like climate models to help us understand global warming.
Migration patterns of dinosaur lineages, they tell us about Earth's changing continents.
We can also study dinosaur diets, what plants lived then and maybe what animals and how they interact.
And, this is super cool, many dinosaur injuries, paleopathologies, they're the first known occurrences of diseases.
And they talk about all this kind of stuff on I Know Dino. It comes out every week with new dinosaur stories that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Like, I hadn't heard of a lot of these, which is pretty cool.
You can find I Know Dino on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts are. And if you found us, you can probably find them. Go check them out. Welcome back to That's Absurd. Please elaborate, our super listeners. Because without you, we'd have none.
Because without listeners, we'd have none. Yeah,
this
so
is done.
This is
therefore you are super to us.
I didn't quite follow, but I just, sure. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll just go with it.
Okay, Trace, what is your question this episode?
My question this week is actually 2 questions.
Oh, doing extra work.
Well, kinda. So we had a question from a new asker, Justin, and it was really close to a question from a previous asker, Trevor from Indianapolis, of immortal squirrel fame.
Oh!
Yeah, and Justin sent us a voice note, so let's hear it.
Hello, Trace and Julian. My name is Justin. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. And my question is, how many people would it take to consume the Himalaya mountain range? There's this great bit in an Eddie Izzard stand-up show where she says, there is such a word as impossible. It is impossible to eat the Himalayas. That line got stuck in my head. It's such a striking image. But in the words of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, things are only impossible until they are not. So I wondered, is it impossible to eat the Himalayas? I figure an average human can probably consume some small amount of rock before it's harmful. So first, how much rock is that? And would it therefore be possible for a large team of dedicated and not very picky eaters to consume the Himalayas? And of course, if we ate the Himalayas, would that solve anything?
Would that solve anything?
Would that solve anything? Okay, so Justin...
We have to change the name of the podcast to Would That Solve
I feel
Anything.
like maybe we do.
We just...
So, Justin's question aligned very well with Trevor from Indianapolis, who just simply asked, how many rocks could I eat? So I was like, this is kind of the same.
They're related, yeah.
Yeah, they're related. One of them is the road to the other one. So, let's talk about this. Julian, have you ever eaten a rock on purpose? I've licked them.
Yeah. Are we going to get super technical about what is and is not a rock? Because
No.
I feel like I'm going to say no, and you're going to go, but you have.
I mean, yes, you could argue that we eat minerals every day, and we can talk a little bit about that. But, I mean, specifically, you picked up a little rock off the ground and you just threw it in the gullet.
I haven't, no. There's no time I recall looking at a rock and going, I got to have that inside me.
You're not a Goron.
Ooh, great Legend of Zelda cut. Love that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Okay. I just really want to quickly say, Trevor, don't eat rocks, dude. How many rocks could I eat? This isn't a competition. Just don't go out there and eat rocks. Don't do it.
Also, Trevor, we don't know you. You have to answer that question and get back to us.
Yeah, really, that's really a question for you. How many rocks could I eat? I don't know.
Can Trevor specifically eat? I don't know.
You,
Email
Trevor,
us with the answer.
in Indianapolis, I feel like maybe someone who knows you and watched you eat a bunch of rocks can write in.
Once the hospitals pulled them all out and asked, why? And you said, for a podcast, email us and tell us what the total was.
That's how you know you're cool. Remember earlier we had the triangle of cool?
Yeah.
That is now it's a square of cool.
Yeah, chew on 2 rocks.
Some animals do eat rocks, I want to say, just right off the top. Reptiles and birds mostly. Although some mammals, like seals and toothed whales. But of course, also reptiles and birds, like I mentioned. Crocodiles, penguins, or for those who speak Cumberbatchian, penguins.
Penguins.
They all eat rocks. And they're not eating them for nutrition. Animals that eat rocks to help with digestion, they eat them and then they're called gastroliths, or stomach stones. So using the example of a bird, they would swallow a sharp rock and hold them like in a muscly stomach called a gizzard. And then the gastrolith rocks would mush and crush their food for them because birds don't chew their food. They don't have teeth. So this does the job. And eventually when they wear down, the birds vomit up the rocks and go find some new rocks to eat. And I wonder, can you imagine like how great it would feel to be like, I'm holding all these rocks in my gizzard and now they're all smooth. And you would be able to like feel that they're all smooth and just like get them out for a bit and be like, whew.
That
I feel like it would feel very pleasant. Yeah.
Like a very satisfying bathroom visit in kind of the same vein, right?
Yeah. Or like when, I don't know, I get food stuck sometimes and like clearing it is just the best. Mm-hmm. That's a disorder I have. Doesn't matter. This is an ancient evolutionary thing. It's noted that some dinosaurs, especially sauropods and plesiosaurs, might have done this because they found like rocks in that part of the fossil, which is cool, like little rocks. Toothed whales, I thought was kind of cool, and they're not really sure why they eat them because, toothed whales, they have teeth, so they can grab stuff. Swimming animals, they thought maybe kept them for buoyancy. Crocodiles also maybe buoyancy. They're not really sure. Humans, though, we do not have a gizzard. We do not benefit from gastrolithic eating.
We have Eddie Izzard, but we do not have a gizzard.
Oh, that's great. Also, Eddie Izzard, I love her. She's the best.
Yeah.
But some of the other mammals who eat rocks, for example, Brazilian capuchins, they have been observed smashing rocks together and will occasionally lick them. They're smashing like a rock on top of another rock. There's not something in between it. And then they just lick the rock they're smashing and they go back to smashing it again. Not sure why. They don't know. They can't ask them. But
they don't speak Portuguese.
They don't speak Portuguese.
They need to get you down there.
Really unfortunate. They should just go down there and ask them if somebody from Portugal or from Brazil or somewhere. But whatever. Grazing cows technically eat rocks with the soil that they're eating because they eat a lot of soil. They consume a lot of it when they're eating the grass and grazing. But, that none of those are eating rocks the way that I think we're talking about here. Consuming rocks. And quick sidebar, I mentioned it earlier. Julian, what's a Goron?
A Goron is one of the fictional races in the Legend of Zelda universe that they live on Death Mountain, which is a big active volcano. They're big, stony people that can literally turn themselves into little rolling wheels, and their diet consists of delicious rocks and gems.
Yeah. They don't actually really like eating gems, if I remember correctly. They don't taste as good. But they do eat, they can.
But certain rocks.
Yeah, but rocks, though. So, yeah, Goron, rock-eating, rolling, rock-backed, intelligent creature. That's what I wrote. They have extremely strong mandible muscles. I was reading several nerds debating the anatomy and physiology of Gorons. And the reason I bring them up is because they eat rocks. They are a species, fictional, that eat rocks. And so I thought, somebody has thought about how they would do that. Like how they would extract some kind of, nutrition,
energy,
anything from a rock. So they have extremely strong mandibles. Their saliva is acidic. They have a rough, muscular esophagus, and they break down the rocks in their very acidic, muscular stomachs, and then they mix it with water. And that actually, people were like, that actually could work to absorb some minerals. Like you could get silica, carbon, oxygen, water, and iron from rocks. Like, fine.
Right.
Some of it gets excreted, by the way, and into their backsides as protection. If you've played the game, Legend of Zelda's, the newer ones especially, where you interact with the Gorons a lot, they have this rocky back, And in the game, it's a game. It's fictional, and it's on Nintendo's system, which until later this year won't be in 4K. So you can't really see the details on their backs. But if you think about it, they must have some kind of giant squeezy pore that's just like excreting like a concrete onto their back in order to get the rock from inside their body to outside their body.
Or like the mantle of a mollusk, that's like depositing
it's got to be pretty
by layer.
Pretty yucky looking. I don't know if you really get in there. But we see them eating rocks in part to crush other rocks too, limestones and stuff. So
do you think limestones are lime flavored for them?
I sure hope so.
Do you think they make a margarita and they put like limestone around them? Like, flavor it with some limestone. And then, of course, salt on the rim.
Little guy. You want some of this margarita?
It's just limestone powder mixed in with water. I don't want to get on a sidebar on my sidebar, but I think we can all agree that of the species that live in Hyrule, the Zora are definitely the most uppity, and the Hylians are like in the middle. But then like the Gorons are like, hey everybody, what? Like they're just
working
everybody's
sticks,
friend.
They're just down in the mines, they just want to come home and eat a good rock dinner. Yeah, but they're also really cool, right? Again, talking about nerds using cool phrases, right? When they're like, Goro!
Yeah.
What's up,
They
Goro?
just say that to each other for no reason. What's up, Goro?
What's up, Goro?
Again, every time I play that section, I'm like, nerds trying to be cool. Classic.
This is what people would call each other, right?
Right?
Goro?
Right, Goro?
Yeah, we call each other Humu all the time.
What up, Humo?
What's up, Humo?
What up, my Humo?
Maybe we should.
Start the thing.
So do you remember a while ago, like a long time ago, NASA came out with this idea that life could be made of stuff other than carbon?
Yeah, I think there was some research that like there might be some organisms in the bottom of a lake that were arsenic-based or something like that.
Yeah. And they were trying to be like, this could be like what aliens are like or whatever. Silicon is very close to carbon on the periodic table. So it could be that Hylian, Zora, and Gerudo are carbon-based, but Gorons might be silica-based? So if they were a silica-based life form, then they would need silica from rocks to, replenish their body cells. Just a thought. Anyway, let's end this sidebar and come back to the actual thing.
Okay.
So humans, we eat two kinds of minerals. Macro minerals is one, and trace minerals is the other. No relation. Macro minerals, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, sodium, potassium, chloride, and sulfur. Very important for life. And so maybe Gorons only need macro, by the way. Maybe they only need macro minerals. They don't need the trace minerals. Anyway, I'm reading this, and there's actually way more sidebar here than I anticipated.
On the Gorons?
On the Gorons.
Would you say you'd bit off more than you could chew?
I would, yes, because in Breath of the Wild, they confirmed that they can eat gems and jewels, but they don't like the taste. And so maybe there is an evolutionary reason why they don't like gems. For example, there's not enough of what they need in a gem. Like rubies are aluminum oxide with chromium, but with no silicon. So if they're silicon-based life forms, then they need to eat something that's not a ruby. And one of the ways evolution makes life forms want to eat things is to make them taste good. So if gems don't taste good, it must stand to reason that they don't have things that they need inside of them. Meanwhile, also in the most recent Switch Zelda games, there's that Goron that likes to eat flint, and flint are crystals of silicon and oxygen. They're quartz, so maybe it tasted good and he's a connoisseur of it, and so that would again mean that they might be silicon-based life forms and they have an evolutionary advantage to eating stuff that is silicon-based. And, I just thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool. That is fun. As far as like retroactively applying science to a fictional world, I like that. That's fun.
Yeah, I think that we just did more research than Chew 2, just pointing it out. So anyway, humans, not Hylians, sorry. If you ate a rock, Julian, you personally, it would probably get stuck somewhere in your digestive system. It would be stuck in your esophagus or your bowels, and that can cause an infection. It can cause fever or even death. In 10th grade, I had a biology class called Biology from a guy named Dr. Shooks, and we had an oral exam. We drew a card at random out of a little deck, and we had to verbally describe how something went from ingestion into excretion as waste, all the way through the entire body down to the cellular level. Mm-hmm. The cards were sugar, protein, carb, water. Everybody wanted to draw water because that's like the easiest one. But you had to talk about what it did, like what acted on it, you know, what happened, what chemical change it went through, etc. It was a big test, one of many. But literally, it was very, very hard. And what I remember mostly is that a lot of the food stuff just breaks down into the same very simple things. Like that's the goal, where the body is breaking them down into their component parts so that we can use them. But generally, it's the saliva is going to pre-digest it, the stomach acid is going to physically and chemically break it down, and then you eventually get down to the cellular level where those things that you broke it down into are used in different ways to make energy. We eat minerals, and the minerals do play a part in this. Like, we eat things like iron, and they are needed for hemoglobin, which is how we carry oxygen around in our red blood cells. Mm-hmm. Milk and bread and cereal are fortified with stuff like calcium, which is a mineral, zinc, which is a mineral, potassium, which is a mineral. And the reason we do that is because we don't always eat enough minerals that we are supposed to be eating. Another sidebar, do you remember the cereal Total?
Yes.
It's a cornflake or a bran flake with like 100% of daily vitamins and minerals on it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I remember people being like, there's 100% of everything. That's amazing. It's like the scientific discovery equal to the wheel. Like, we found a cereal that's perfect for us.
It's the perfect food.
But then you have to tell them that they just spray the minerals and vitamins. Literally. Cornflakes were invented by the Kellogg family in the 1890s, and they have no nutritional value, really. So they just spray them with vitamins.
Yeah. You ever take a magnet to a cereal that's fortified with iron, and you can actually start collecting little iron shavings?
I've never done it, but I've seen it done.
Keep it in the bag and move the magnet along the outside of the bag, and you'll start picking up literal, actual iron.
Cool. That's great. It's just on there. I mean, or you can talk about the X-Men, where she got Magneto out of prison by injecting someone with a lot of iron.
If you ate a bowl full of Total and then fought Magneto, you'd be at a huge disadvantage.
Amazing. So anyway, there's two kinds of minerals. There's the macro minerals we've been talking about. There's the trace minerals. So the iron, manganese, copper, iodine, zinc, cobalt, fluorine, and selenium are also important for you to eat. Calcium is used to make bone tissues. Magnesium makes acids, proteins, and is used when we are doing processing of glucose. We've got potassium for muscle contraction and nerve impulses. We've got sodium for balancing our water. Julian mentioned that when we're talking about action potentials in our neurons even. We need those sodium ions in order to make that charge. Sulfur, which is used as a building block for amino acids, which keep us alive. Cobalt, which is used to make batteries and magnets, but without it we can't make vitamin B12, which is used to make red blood cells. Just yet another example of when wellness people are like, this is used for batteries. We shouldn't eat it. It's like, well, if you don't, you can't make red blood cells. So you should eat the cobalt.
You want to eat iron? That's what swords are made of, and they stab people.
Yeah, exactly. Fluorine, a current discussion in the United States. It's found in food, oatmeal, potatoes, raisins, shellfish. It's absorbed in the gut and stored in our bones and our teeth to prevent decaying teeth and also bones. However, it has recently been outlawed in the state of Utah to put it in the water. Fluoridated water is 0.7 per liter.
Right.
3 milligrams per gallon.
You'd have to drink something like 350 gallons of fluoridated water a day.
It's like 3 gallons, but you'd still have to drink 3 gallons of highly fluoridated, which it is not, water every single day to get dental fluorosis, which is a cosmetic issue that doesn't affect your health at all.
No, I heard for to actually be harmful to your health, it's 350. There's a doctor that I follow on one of the socials.
I'm sure it is a ridiculous amount.
And it was like, you die of water poisoning before that point.
Yeah. Think of an infant who drank literally gallons of fluoridated tap water every single day. What would end up happening is they would mostly pee it out, because that's how the body works. So we need minerals to survive. However, we don't need to eat them as rocks. The Himalayas are big. So how many rocks can you eat, Trevor? I would say safely 0. Could you eat some little teeny ones and be fine? Yes. But there will come a point where you will eat one and it will not come out. So I would not do that if I were you. So, Justin, let's talk about the Himalayas. They're big.
Newsflash.
This just in. The Germans have bombed Pearl Harbor, and the Himalayas are big.
Latest expedition from Shackleton says Himalayas are big.
And I say this as a man who stood next to the Empire State Building the first time he saw it and said, wow, that's tall. And my friend goes, yeah.
At the risk of stating the obvious.
I said it so genuinely. I was like looking up and I was like, that's really tall. And my buddy Ray is like, yes, it is.
They don't have anything this tall back on the fort in Mackinac.
I didn't bring it up this whole episode, and I wasn't planning on it.
I didn't want to break our streak.
Okay. The Himalayas. Do you know how they were formed, Julian?
Yes, vaguely.
Okay.
Basically, I don't remember the name of the tectonic plate. I want to say the Indian plate.
Yep.
Absolutely rushed over to the Eurasian plate and slammed into it.
Yeah.
And very quickly started building up those mountain ranges, right? Like you got, I think it's subduction of the Indian plate under the Eurasian, and it's building that mountain range up at a prolific rate. So it got very tall very quickly.
40 to 50 million years ago was when the collision happened between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate. Interesting, the Eurasian plate is actually trying to get away, like it's moving further away, and the Indian plate is moving faster. The Eurasian plate's moving at 2 centimeters a year, like northeast-ish, and the Indian plate's like, no, and like come 5 centimeters a year continues to like smash into it. So it seems like it's also moving so fast that it's tearing itself apart as part of the plate subducts below the Eurasian plate. Super interesting, slow-moving drama. So the Himalayas are relatively young mountains. There are 4 parallel longitudinal belts, the outer sub-Himalayas, which in the south, then the lesser lower Himalayas, and the Great Himalayas, then the Tethys or Tibetan Himalayas in the north. It has over 100 mountain peaks, several of the highest mountains in the world, including the highest land-top mountain in the world, Everest. I say that because if you count from the seafloor versus, sea level, you get different which one's the biggest, but Everest is the highest on land. So finding the mass balance of an entire mountain range is not actually an easy thing to do. So if we were going to eat all of the Himalayas, we need to know how much all of the Himalayas are.
Yeah. When do we stop? When's enough? When we shave it down to sea level, or can we quit like a little before that?
When is this new country buffet going to be closed? How much of it is? So let's just take the one that's the most studied of all of the peaks, Everest in the Himalayas. It's got a peak. It shares roots with the surrounding mountains. But a guy named Roger Billam, a geophysics professor at the University of Colorado in 2020, looked at the density and volume to calculate just the mass of Everest. Everest is mostly limestone. It's got a yellow band of silt and clay. The rest is granite. It gives a pretty good average rock density of about 170 pounds per cubic feet, or 2,700 kilograms per square meter. Now we need a size. So you got a cone volume, which is the third base area times height. So to calculate the height from the crust to the sea level, I think makes the most sense, although Billam started at base camp, which is pretty high up already at 5,400 meters, 17,500 feet above sea level.
Come on, Billam, where's your appetite?
Right. Billam calculated the volume to be 59.4 billion meters squared, or 2.1 trillion cubic feet. If you multiply that by the density that we just calculated, you end up with 162 trillion kilograms, 357 trillion pounds. There was an asteroid about the same size found. It's called Atawara. It's 5.5 kilometers in diameter. It's got a mass of 200 trillion kilograms, so a little bigger.
What's the mass of Everest again?
So the mass of Everest is 162 trillion kilograms, just from base camp to the top.
Right. Hold on. I'm going to a website.
I think I know where you're going. And I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't think to go there.
Honestly. It's about 30 times as heavy as the Great Pyramid of Giza.
So 30 pyramids.
No, wait, that's not right. I missed 3 zeros. Hold on.
God, oh no. So just add 3 zeros. It's 3,000 Great Pyramids.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure I've got it right. Million, billion, trillion. There you go. It's about 25,000 times as heavy as the Great Pyramid of Giza.
It's 25. Okay, so what Justin is asking us
it's
to do...
It's about 200,000 times as heavy as the Golden Gate Bridge.
So what Justin is asking us to do...
It's about 500,000 times as heavy as the Empire State Building, which a wise man once said is tall.
I almost lost my headphones on that one. Okay. Whew. Wow. So what Justin is asking us to do is how many Great Pyramids?
25,000.
Is to just get you and 24,999 of your closest friends who are dedicated to each eat one Great Pyramid. 162 trillion kilograms of rock. That is, again, limestone, granite, gneiss, and clay. Doesn't even account for the snow or plant matter on the Himalayas. Are we eating those too, or are we scraping those off and leaving it on our plate? I don't know.
I think, yeah, that's the garnish.
Even if you just divide it by every person. So remember the Lego sun episode where if we bent our entire society to building a Lego sun, how long it would take, and it would take a long time. So if we just bent all of humanity into eating the Himalayas, that would be almost 20,000 kilograms of rock would need to be consumed per person everywhere in the world by everyone.
I think that's more than doctors recommend in a typical diet.
We just told Trevor not even to eat one. So how big would a small rock be? Let's say granite is 2.75 grams per cubic centimeter, about 45 grams per cubic inch. And I think cubic inch is too big a rock to eat. But there was a study in the Journal of Patient Preference Adherence from 2021 about pill sizes and showed that people with different pill sizes ranging from 14 to 26 millimeters long, or about a half an inch to an inch, and they asked in a survey about how people felt comfortable swallowing those pills. Did they feel comfortable with a pill that was 14 millimeters all the way up to 26? Everybody was cool with 14 millimeters. That's about a half an inch pill. Not too bad, little tiny one. Most people were still cool with a 19 millimeter or a 3/4 inch pill. We're talking about like a 2 centimeter cube then. So it's an uncomfortable thing to eat, or about a 5.5 gram of rock pill per person. So we've got somebody, Julian, I guess, chipping away at Everest, making little 5.5 gram pills for every person. And if we had an unlimited number of people, you could give everybody one, you'd need 30 quintillion humans. Or 30 quintillion bites, 30 quintillion amuse-bouches.
Sousson of Mount Everest. Sousson de Everest.
But the thing that Justin didn't mention, and I couldn't shake it, is the idea isn't it doesn't stay in you.
Right.
If you eat the Himalayas, you're pooping out the Himalayas.
Yeah.
So it takes about a day to poop out a rock.
We're just reassembling the Himalayas at the nearest outhouse.
Like the frickin' civet coffee of Himalayas. Where now it's way more expensive because humans have eaten it. Okay, so if you took all 8.2 billion people and everyone got this little one rock a day, it would take 3.7 billion bites per person. So if you could eat one rock a day and poop out one rock a day for your safety, it would take us 10 million years with every person swallowing one uncomfortably sized rock pill every day. If we double it to 2, still 5 million years.
Really does their part. If we start putting up wartime propaganda posters about how we all need to suffer through this together.
Keep calm and eat your rocks, everybody.
Keep calm and chew on.
If you took a bite every minute for 8 hours a day, it would take still 20,833 years, 5 months, and like 11 days for all 8.2 billion people to eat the Himalayas. And remember, it's not even the Himalayas, it's just Everest from the base camp to the top.
Also, I have another thing to throw into this, which you may or may not have considered in your research. You opened the segment on the Himalayas, noting that they are growing.
I didn't even consider that.
Are making more Himalayas. The Everest apparently is growing at 2 millimeters per year.
2. Okay.
But we did the math of Everest as though it were a cone.
Yes, we did, because that was simpler. But I think you should do the math of Everest, because it's even simpler if you do it as a cylinder. So a 2 millimeter tall cylinder with the base area of 4 kilometers.
If we're assuming it's a cylinder, which it's a cone, so actually the base is getting wider, but if we're assuming it's a cylinder, it's adding basically 100,000 cubic meters annually.
Yep. Great.
Just Everest.
Just Everest. Not the Himalayas.
Not the entire mountain range.
So again, if we're each eating about a 2 centimeter cubed pill every day, we're adding how many?
Okay, so the population of Earth is eating a 2 centimeter cubed?
Every day.
If my math is right, we would be taking out about 6 million cubic meters a year, while Everest is adding, just Everest, 100,000 cubic meters a year. So we're outpacing Everest.
But maybe not
the whole Himalayas.
So really, this might be quite literally a Sisyphean.
Yeah, why didn't Sisyphus try and eat the boulder? What was he thinking?
Yeah, just eat it.
The hill.
Just eat it, man. It's not getting any
Sisyphus
bigger.
had ate the hill, it'd be very easy to roll the boulder up it.
He could have taken one bite every day. And eventually it's just a flat.
When he gets the boulder almost all the way to the top, just nibble a little bite of the hill and then try again tomorrow.
Yeah. I really think the problem, though, is that you're eating it and you're just redistributing the Himalayas across all of the people on the planet every day. To answer your question, Trevor, how many rocks could you eat? I mean, I don't know, man. 1, maybe, if you're lucky, a couple. And how many people would it take to consume the Himalaya mountain range? Justin, everyone. And it would take us 10 million years. And then some, because my math didn't include the fact that it was getting bigger.
That it was growing.
So, ouch. It would be a lot. The point here is to say, we like minerals. We eat minerals. We don't eat them like this. And also, Earth is real big. It's just real big.
It is. Trace points at big things and goes, "That's big."
That's big. Honestly, that's half my science communication in my entire career. Guys, that's big. And people are like, no. And I'm like, no.
Oh, yeah?
No,
I've got
it's
a website
big.
that'll tell you just how big it is.
With that, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of That's Absurd. Please elaborate. I hope that you learned something. I don't know what, but I hope you learned it. This show was created and written and also produced by me, Trace Dominguez.
And me, Julian Huguet.
It was also produced and edited by the wonderful, and you could say he rocks, Kyle Sisk.
Yeah. That guy's actually cool. Not nerd cool like us.
Yeah.
Special thanks to listeners who submitted questions for this episode. Kronik Dreamer, Justin, and Trevor. If you would like to submit a question, you can look for the form down in our show notes. Or you can email us at hello@that'sabsurdshow.com. You can visit our website, that'sabsurdshow.com/ask. You can call us on the phone at 302-TAPE-SHOW. That's TAPESHO.
I would like to give a shout out to our newest Patreon subscriber, Jonathan, who also joined at the Absurd Administrator level, which means our Absurd Administrators are Les, Adam, Austin, Pinky, and Jonathan. Thank you to all of you. And since the last time we recorded, we got a couple new patrons as well, Alyssa and Jana. So if you want to join the Patreon, you can go down into the show notes and do that. The Patreon is the main way that we fund this podcast, so thank you to everyone who has joined so far.
We're even using those funds to help us put on a live show later on this month. So your contributions are having a tangible impact on the podcast.
If you would like to attend the show and live in the area around Northampton, Massachusetts, where Smith College is based, it is open to the public, so you can go down into the show notes for the details on our first ever, and maybe last if it's terrible, live show.
If the audience tells us to eat rocks. That'll be on April 20th.
That's right. Leave us a review wherever you're listening right now. Those reviews tell other people this show is worth their time. Thank you to everyone who's left a review. I got an email just last week from somebody who left a review and asked us to mail them a sticker, which we promised to do. So I am putting that in an envelope and licking it and sending it off. Please don't use my DNA to clone me.
No promises. And of course, please keep submitting those questions. It's basically, if it wasn't clear at this point, listeners are the lifeblood of this show. Between reviews, listener questions, Patreon subscribers, like it's really all built around all the contributions that you all make, and then we're just kind of the idiots who try and stitch something fun and goofy together based on all that. So thank you all so very much. And lastly, a special thanks to those listening on Nebula. This show now officially has a Nebula video page. If you watch our video versions of the podcast, that'll actually also monetarily support the show. We really appreciate that. Nebula listeners will get access to ad-free versions of episodes, and they support us and other wonderful independent creators that I personally am big fans of so many people on Nebula. So if you want to support us and support them, you can join Nebula by going to go.nebula.tv/that'sabsurdshow.
Jetlag just got nominated for a Webby. Did you know that?
Pretty cool. Of course it did. It's so good.
Yeah, just got nominated. People's Choice Webby. I voted for it already.
This is my surprise face.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
It's exactly what you think it looks like.
Yeah. If you haven't yet, go check out our video version, share it with your friends. It's a great way if people maybe don't think they're into podcasts and they like videos, you can share it. The link is down in the show notes. And as we say at the end of every episode, Julian, what do we say at the end of every episode?
Do your part and chew 2 rocks. We're counting on you. We have to beat Mount Everest.
1 million lions or us eating Mount Everest, I think.
Oh, yeah. Could the humans bring chickens and birds that eat the rocks? Is that cheating? I don't think it is.
I learned in cartoons that at the end of the cartoon, if you need the animals to help out, they'll probably help the good guys. So if animals show up on your side, then you're
if your heart is pure.
Yeah. I thought what we said at the end of every episode was, sheath on! Sheath up!
It's rock eating time. You can
everybody sheath up. We're eating some rocks today. Yeah. Come on, humos. Let's go.
Only a couple more trillion years of this.
Oh, no. Thank you for listening, everyone. We will see you next time on That's Absurd. Please elaborate.